Hello, everyone. It's January 25th, 2015, and this is Overgrowth Weekly 90 with Overgrowth Weekly Q&A 6, I think. Oh, more music. No. Am I right? 6?
I think so.
I don't know.
Maybe?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 6.
My name is Lucas Orsvärn.
Hey guys, I'm Anton Reel.
David Rosen.
I'm Aubrey, sir.
I'm Ian Rosenthal.
Oh, Rosenthal, welcome. So yeah, Ian iDubbbz. I think iDubbbz is your last name.
Yes, yeah, we can go with that.
That's how you're saved in my phone, is Ian iDubbbz.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so we should point out that, hello Ian, you're a guest on our show today.
Feels good.
It feels good to have you here. Very good. So
Yes.
yeah, let's just jump straight in, shall we? Yeah, so I'll go first here. So question for Aubrey from Thomason1005. He asks, did you ever consider having painted stuff in cutscenes, maybe animated as in the new Shadow Warrior, and or will the comics be included in the game in any way?
I did think about that, but ultimately we decided to go with something a little bit more simple. So we're probably just going to have animated cutscenes like the ones we've shown off in the update videos. It would be cool to do something a little bit more artistic, but it's just more challenging.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anton, will you take the next question then?
Oh, sure. So, will you be doing more of the comic at all as you keep developing?
I've thought about it. Like one of the things that one of the problems I've run into now is that I'm like coming up with story ideas, but I think they're actually pretty good, and I kind of want to put them in the game. So, so I could definitely sit down and write a couple of comics right now that I think would have cool stories, but I don't think I will. Hopefully, we'll just roll that into the actual plot for the for Overgrowth.
Great. So we either get a comic or a game.
Well, considering how good the comics are, that's actually a pretty hard choice.
No, it's good.
No, it's an easy choice. It's game. It's game.
Yeah.
I did have one kind of dumb idea that I might try to turn into a comic. Maybe I'll release it on Twitter or something. We'll see how that goes. I had this idea for this character that I was calling Scrappy, and Scrappy is kind of like he's obsessed with becoming like he's a rabbit that's obsessed with becoming a predator, and I just thought that was going to be probably too dumb to put in the actual game. So,
interesting. So, I mean, to kind of combine those two questions, do you think the comic style cutscene? Do you think that the comic could ever be a style for cutscenes?
it might be possible for us to put something in because it might be an easy way to prototype it, but I think I'd prefer to skip straight to just doing the animated cutscenes, kind of like the talking head stuff.
Right. What about like a loading screen? Could we see comics and things in there, maybe?
I don't know if David has his way. I'm not sure if we're going to have loading screens. What do you think, David? I mean, like...
Ideally not. Because like Overgrowth levels tend to have not a huge amount of content compared to... not a lot of unique content compared to a lot of AAA games nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Lugaru, there are only like 4 assets. There's like the rabbit model, a wolf model, a rock, and a cube. Overgrowth has a lot more, but we still have the same sort of minimalist philosophy. Like a pretty big level might still have like 20 or 30 different objects that are just scaled and rotated in a lot of different ways. It should theoretically be possible to have pretty fast load times.
Well,
I see.
here's a thought. Just recently, or I think it's going to be sometime this year, the patent for auxiliary games is going to expire. So maybe have some sort of Lugaru, load screen game while you're waiting for Overgrowth.
Yeah.
To go.
while you wait for Overgrowth to load.
Yeah.
Mini games in the loading. There's a pretty cool one in maybe it was Bayonetta or Devil May Cry where you could just like practice your combos in the loading screen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that that's like technically like not totally fine to do because it's basically just the game, it's not anything I guess smaller. It's not like a mini game.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Well, what currently takes a long time to load in the game?
The biggest load time right now is probably the animations because it has to load all the retargeted versions for each character. There's just a lot of different little files right now, so I'm gonna have to pack that up into like one continuous read. Because the hard drive is by far the slowest thing on your computer in terms of memory access. So I just want one continuous read instead of lots of small ones.
Some of the
Right.
textures haven't been properly like optimized in terms of size. So like some of the textures might be way too big and so at some point I'll want to go through and make sure that all of the textures are only as big as they need to be. So that might be causing some slowdown on load. But
Interesting. With the animation retargeting, is that going to be reduced very much? Meaning, are there going to be more models made for the different sized characters to cut back on some of that?
Well, what I'd like to do is just do that all at runtime if possible, instead of having to cache it in files that are then loaded. Because that's probably actually a lot faster than having to load them again.
I
But
see.
we'll see.
Okay. Should we move on? Sorry for
Let's.
being.
So yeah,
All
I
right.
think you could ask your question then, iDubbbz.
Okay. David, are you sure you want to work on Overgrowth for another 10 to 15 years? They say the age of peak cognitive performance is 24. I'm sorry to say, but you're past your prime, and it's only going to get worse. Here's what I'm suggesting. Sell Overgrowth to Ubisoft, and live high on the hog for the rest of your days. Fire Aubrey, and tell him to go back to cake baking, or whatever he did before Wolfire. There, I just saved you from years of ridicule, and got your game a 9.5 out of 10 on IGN. So I
like
guess
a
that's
pretty
not a
good plan.
question.
yeah, I mean it's really like not a terrible plan.
Well, it depends on how much Ubisoft would be offering for it.
Oh
If
yeah.
it's like Microsoft and we get like $2 billion, then I have to say I would sell out for $2 billion.
Would you?
Yep.
2 billion is a lot of zeros. I mean,
Anyone who says they wouldn't do something for $2 billion is lying, I think.
or maybe they just don't grasp that it's 2 billion, like what you could do with $2 billion. Like I could understand how that could be a stumbling block for some people.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what
like
that's what I think.
$2,000 million.
Yeah,
No,
you
I think-
basically invest in a bunch of small indie companies and basically still be David Rosen just not working on Overgrowth.
Yeah, he could just buy all the indie companies for $2 billion. Like,
Yeah.
just
I don't know how much Ubisoft's even worth. Maybe I could just buy the whole company back.
That's what I was thinking. You could just buy the game back and still have money over, It'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Profit.
So to the serious question, how did you and Aubrey meet? Not to make it sound like you guys are a couple or anything, but I'm interested.
What was your first date like? Oh, God.
I think it was for concept. I saw some concept art of helmets or something like that.
yeah.
Like one of the earlier artists linked to this. Like I came to visit again.
Oh, nice.
Aw. Hello.
Precious.
So yeah, there was one of the first artists on Lugaru 2 was a guy, Ian Wells. He worked on like Titan Quest and stuff after that. He's a pretty talented dude, really good at doing textures. And I kind of saw that he was working with David, and I was interested. So I kind of just started making Lugaru style art, concept art, and I think I asked Ian to kind of pass that along and show David, and that was all kind of centered around the Polycount forums. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was how it started
I think I
out.
was impressed by like the sheer quantity of helmets. There was like
Mhm.
50 of them or something that were all pretty different. They had like fancy like gold helmets or like sort of camo branch helmets and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Aubrey, did you feel like you've learned more from like working on Overgrowth, or did you feel like you pretty much brought all the necessary skills to the table from the get-go?
I think I was pretty noobish when I started, but part of that is that video game art's changing all the time, and even just in terms of making art for Overgrowth, I've totally changed the way that I try to make it, like several times already, using totally different tools, and the better tools are a lot faster. So it's hard to separate between like how much of it is me getting better and how much of it is just using better tools. But definitely I've learned a lot since starting work on Overgrowth. Even in just the last year, I kind of took a lot of time to practice my art skills, and I think that it was worth it, basically.
Well, that's my question.
Nice.
Well, for the original point, I would like to finish Overgrowth within 10 years.
Yeah.
We'll see
Alright,
how
so-
it goes.
Confirmed.
Well, yeah. It's really
I was,
depressing though, because you can't even necessarily say like, yeah, it will be done before 10 years. You're just saying that you'd like it to be.
Yeah, because one of the good and bad points of our development style is there are no deadlines.
Yeah.
We're not going to ship like a rushed, crappy product, but we're
Mhm.
also maybe not going to finish as soon as we might like.
Uh-huh.
There's a bit of a trade-off there.
So
Don't you
the,
have other dreams, goals, aspirations? You know?
Yeah.
Like a family?
Most of my aspirations are making other video games. 'Cause I have
Nice.
this big list of games, and I add like a lot of them every
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
And then if I finish one game like every 7 years or whatever, if I finish
Mhm.
this next year, then that's a bad ratio.
Are you gonna work on any game jams coming up? Have any thoughts on
We're
doing
thinking
that?
of doing this
Prototyping
game
stuff?
jam, the Leela Jam for Leela, the
Jam
indie
for
game
Leela.
developer, who was kind of bullied into suicide because she was transgendered.
Mhm.
So there's a jam in her honor that's been going on. We might participate in the last week of it.
Okay. Cool.
Did you ever
Yeah.
want to speak about your original intention for how long this game was going to take?
I like that.
I think our original plan was for it to be like a 6-month project.
yeah, I believe it was 6 months.
We were like, oh, well, we're from this idea because we already did Lugaru, and that took like a year and a half. And I'm like way better at coding now, so this should only take like 6 months. But the problem is that production values scale kind of exponentially instead of linearly.
And
Right.
one of like the first idea for the art assets was just one character model with different head swaps. Like it wasn't even different character models. It was just different heads that you would attach. Like because I was like, well, I need to get all of this done in 6 months. How are we going to do it? I'm like, well, I'll make 6 different animal heads and we'll attach it to a generic animal body, and that'll have to be good enough.
Right.
So I don't think anybody really would have preferred that game that we did in 6 months. It would have been drastically worse if we even attempted to try to hit even like a year deadline.
Well, I mean, the 6 months after you guys first announced Overgrowth, I don't think you even had, Steam promise and, barely any pre-orders, and you were all living in your parents' basements, and, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I think the overall result has been much better than a 6-month project.
It certainly was impossible for me to predict that we would end up here. Like,
Yeah. It's like,
I'm
oh,
glad at least of the
well, you
game
know.
jam, so we made a few games in the meantime. So that
Yeah.
improves the ratio a little bit.
Yeah, I guess.
You guys should do more of those.
Oh,
I'm honestly pretty excited about this next game jam. Like, we didn't have any plans to do game jams. We were kind of like, let's focus on Overgrowth. But then, this thing came up where, somebody pointed out that this person was a big fan of our games. And so I just think, like, it's, like having a connection with the fans and stuff just made me a lot more pissed off about the whole situation. So it made me want to do the game jam. And we've talked about it. We have some ideas.
Well,
think it'll
one thing
be
I notice about
cool.
every time I think I'm allowed to include myself in we do game jams. I feel like your focus on Overgrowth becomes typically something significant comes out of every game jam in terms of how you feel like the game should be approached. And even though it feels to maybe an outside person like the game sort of doesn't get as much done during that week, I feel like the type of productivity that you do after a game jam is always very interesting, and you actually come back stronger for a while. So
Well, definitely help shift our focus to the big picture a little more.
right.
Like, here's the whole game process kind of jammed into a short period of time.
That's why they call it game jam. You jam it. You jam it.
Jam it into 1 week.
Nice.
Sweet. I
Yeah,
never thought of
I'm
that.
all for more game jams. It's exciting to see receiver and low light combat and all the rest, because they are like, I feel like you guys do a really good job when you do have a short time frame,
Right. Well, I mean,
Thanks.
Receiver has.
We just have a
Receiver,
really good idea for it.
Right.
But I
exactly.
mean, Receiver has done really well. Desperate Gods was basically, mimicked to make that. Sorry, that was my phone.
Tabletop simulator.
Yeah, Tabletop Simulator. They kind of outright said that Desperate Gods was their inspiration. So, I feel like we see those things permeating into the rest of the games. I mean, the rest of indie development outside of just you guys too.
It's crazy.
It is kind of cool to just take a week and like throw out an idea and then have other people spend months and months trying to copy it. It's pretty gratifying.
Yeah, it's. I was going to say it's crazy. Like whatever you guys do, it just like propagates throughout the entire industry. You just make a game in a week, and then it's like you don't even need to do anything. Someone else will be like, "Oh, this is awesome," and then they make a full game out of it in like a year, and sell it. And it's like, "Oh, I got that game that I wanted." Cool.
No pressure, I think.
All right, so we should probably ask another question. Ragdoll Zombie asks, David, do you have any plans on releasing references to the Overgrowth scripting language as well as the XML files to help us modders out?
Yeah, I actually built that into A208.1, where whenever you run the game, it automatically exports the script reference to the documents folder. I haven't done a video about that, but it creates this ascar_docs.h file. And if you open that, it has the declarations of all the functions that are exposed to the scripting layer, along with some comments and other descriptions of what they do. So
That
hopefully
sounds-
this next alpha will help with that.
That sounds really useful. Was that sort of similar to there was a modder that had made like a JavaScript dump program or AngelScript dump program? Is it sort of similar to that?
That was learn_more, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's the same sort of idea. It's just hopefully a little bit easier to read, and it should automatically keep up to date. So whenever I add a new thing, it'll automatically add to that directly without someone else having to do the dump of it.
Did you find that it helped you remember everything you've added to the game?
Yeah, it's nice to have one place where I can search for things, because otherwise I have to search through the whole code base because they're registered to the script in all sorts of different places.
So, did you actually use Learn More's script dump in development?
I never used that one exactly, because I was usually always adding or changing things, so it wouldn't stay up to date as I'm messing with stuff.
That would have been a really good, whatever, like seal of quality thing or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely really cool that he was doing that, though.
Yeah, it was really useful to modders for sure.
So, David, do you want to ask this question?
Sure. So I had a question for Ian, which is something I'm always wondering is, because there is no real campaign in the game yet, I'm always curious, like, why people are getting it. And I see people on Steam that have, like, 100 or 1,000 hours logged, and, like, what are they doing?
To the people who have 100 and 1,000 hours, I'm fucking clueless on what they're doing. I think, like, Ragdoll would be really good at answering this question because she's got a crap ton of time in the game. I definitely, like, will play it, like, every time I'm recording, and, well, that's obvious. But it, it comes out to, around 50, 60 hours, something like that. But there are people who will just, they'll use it as a sandbox, like, basically just ragdolling for half an hour, just ragdolling for half an hour because that's fun, So, like, I legitimately think a lot of it's, there could be some people who are, like, building levels and just, like, not even on the forums, but it's hard to say, I suggest people use some launcher to download all this stuff, but I would say that primarily, people are just going and probably doing the arena, like I think you talk about often, like that's like one of the more gamey things to do right now. So definitely more of that.
And more spikes, apparently. We need to implement spikes.
Yeah, spikes would be cool. But,
I guess it's more like...
Oh, yeah.
The
Animated spike walls.
Spike walls would be cool.
for sure.
So, yeah.
Do you think you could, like, choke a dude from the back and then walk him in, shove his face into a spike wall? Like, dynamically?
That would be nice.
That would be pretty cool.
Probably.
That's at least worth 20 minutes of solid gameplay right there.
What is this game even? Like, we're talking about this. Could you just choke a guy and walk him into spikes and kill him? That would be pretty cool. Yeah. I was like, yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen Running Man, but I'm thinking like just like that scene in Running Man. Okay, you guys haven't.
I've seen Marathon Man. I've seen Million Dollar Man.
I can't
but
believe
I
you guys
never
haven't
seen
seen
no Running Man.
Running Man is a totally awesome movie. You guys should totally watch it.
Nice.
I think we will.
Yes.
But David, I can also confirm that there have been times when I would just ragdoll, especially when Aubrey released like one of the level with the ocean, the sea cliffs. I think that's the name of the
Sea
level.
Cliffs, yeah.
And there was a couple different ways that I would ragdoll. I would sort of just hold down the ragdoll button, see how long before I would get knocked out, and then keep rolling to see how long it would take me before I actually died, and then keep rolling. Or, I always thought it was fun to like jump in the air and roll and ragdoll because your character kind of does almost a perfect cartwheel.
Kind of flipping around.
Yeah, and that stuff was fun, but I think just the movement in the game always feels very fluid, which is I think part of the animation style, and then the combat feels very fluid, very fast, and at least for me I always find that all of the games of yours, and this was why I liked Lugaro, and I was a very early pre-order for Overgrowth, is that I forgot. I forgot what I was gonna say, but I mean, basically, it was that it was skill based. Every game that you make not only is about leveling up and getting better, but it's like you kind of have to treat it like a real martial art. Like if you practice martial arts and you work at it, you're really good, and you reach certain thresholds. But if you stop playing it for a while, you come back and you have to like rebuild up that skill. And I think that that's something that I enjoy more than, like if I'm playing God of War or something, where it's like I just level up, and then no matter how long I come back, I can just spam the same button over and over and kill thousands of guys. It's not as appealing to me. So I think that's at least why I really enjoy playing the game.
Same here.
There's a question here in the chat directed at David. Any plans on expanding the development group or the dev team?
Asks Ausius.
We're kind of doing that a little bit already. Like we have Jill is helping part-time now, and Akazi is also helping with some part-time things as well. So we're starting by kind of trying to expand that way. I don't know
Baby
if we
steps.
want to like hire any full-time people right now, because that's always tricky.
Yeah. You probably want an actual plan and an actual responsibility for the person you hire, I guess.
Yeah, it's always a problem if you hire someone full-time, but you only have because the work often comes in like fits and starts. So then they'll just be idling for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the reasons I think Jill is such a good fit for working with us is that she doesn't need to be told what to do constantly and has a really wide skill set. So, like, for example, Jill can draw and could take over the comic if she wants to. So I think that's probably the most likely possibility in terms of like new actual comic content. But I don't know if that's going to happen because one of the reasons that I became an indie developer is because I didn't want to have a boss or boss anybody else. I just find that really distasteful. So yeah, we'll just see how that goes.
I'm just gonna say, guys, I have an internship. I'm gonna go for an internship in like 6 months. Just saying. Should we keep going with the questions, maybe? How many questions?
Sure.
Like 5 questions in, 6 questions?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
haven't.
we're making slow progress this time.
Yeah, I think it's good, though. I think it's good. So, do you want to go, Anton?
Sure. So this is from RodeJ25. Rode, hey, I don't know. Hey, David, well, you had some variations. That word isn't too good, is it? So would you add some variations to the attacks? For example, if you do a roundhouse kick, and you might kick lower, kick higher. I think basically the question is, maybe in the same circumstance right now, if you're Turner and you're at a distance and moving, you do a roundhouse. And if you're one of the other rabbits, you do a back spin kick. Would you ever make it so that it might alternate which of those kicks it would do? Or are there more, is there like a height difference that might be useful?
Yeah. Well, right now all of the attacks have like high and low variations that interpolates between so that they look right if you're on a slope. And it could also just add some like randomness to that. So they normally have to hit at a pretty precise place. Like there's a big difference between doing a spin kick and hitting someone in the face versus hitting them in the shoulder, even though it's only a few inches. But I definitely want to have a lot more variation in attacks in general. Like even if some of it is just cosmetic. Like maybe it's the same point with the same force, but it just has a different animation, just to make it look more varied. And that's another place where we could hire like a part-time animator to help just generate those. so that it doesn't have to take away from my coding time.
Right.
I also want to add some kind of like more of a combo animation system. It's like if you do an attack once and then you do the same attack again, it might use a different variation of it just to make it look cooler. Especially when we had some weapons would really need it, like the staff.
Mhm.
The staff has these big attacks, and you don't want to be doing the same one over and over. And the staff really easily flows into... Like if you attacked once, you'd probably attack again with the other side of the staff. So we definitely need animation sequence support for that.
Right. I should mention I also just learned a staff set. Actually, I've been really like defining that. So if you want some animation options for ways that attacking streams work with that, I'd be happy to come up and show you.
Sure, that'd be cool.
Cool.
Sweet. So we're kind of over time already. Do you want to keep going? Take a few more, like 3 more questions or something, since we didn't get too many, or should we just start rounding it off?
I still
could
have
do a
time
few
if
more.
you guys have times. Okay.
I got time. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down.
Sweet.
Okay.
Do you want to take the next one then, Ian?
Sure. Is that number 6 on here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Since a bunch of people have been asking me about this lately, what are the plans for Overgrowth's price once the game is released? Based on what I've heard so far, I'd say that it stays at $30, but quite a few guys seem to think that it's pretty much guaranteed that it will go up, since that's how early access usually works. It would be helpful to get an official statement about this to settle speculations once and for all.
And I should add to that question is by EPR89.
Right.
Well, it's hard to nail that down for sure, since it'll kind of depend on what makes sense at the time. But we definitely aren't going to punish anyone for getting it early. So if you ever get it early and then it goes on sale and you're sad about that, you could probably just email us and we'll sort that out. But I think price shouldn't be the determining factor really for pre-ordering it, especially if the game's going to take a year or more before it comes out. Like you'll have it a year or more early, so you should just buy it if you want to play it during that time or not.
Mm-hmm. Can you sort of give us your thoughts on early access? Because you guys sort of, I don't want to say pioneered this, but you guys were definitely one of the early adopters of the idea of a pre-order versus early access versus waiting until a game comes out. I know that sort of shortly after you guys did it, Minecraft did it, and then it sort of seemed like more and more people
Everyone
started
did it.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, early access works differently for different games. Like, it works pretty well for Overgrowth, I think, because of the sandbox aspect that we were talking about earlier, because of the integrated level editor. But I don't know how well it'll work when we start getting more serious about the story campaign, because you only get to experience the story for the first time once, and it might not be as good if you keep trying like early versions of it. It's like you wouldn't want to read earlier versions of a book because you might not see it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of feeling like that about this video project that we're helping with a little bit, a Haphead series. Like, we kept getting access to early cuts of it, but I didn't want to watch all of them because I wanted to just see the final one.
Right.
So I guess I don't play a lot of early access games for that same reason, because I don't have a lot of gaming time, and I'd rather just wait for the final version. So usually if people ask, I don't really recommend that they buy the game. But if you want, then you should, I guess.
Well, I mean, obviously Lucas and I have enjoyed following the development of the game in this format. It's definitely been an insight, I think, to a lot of people about how, about how the development process actually works. And do you find that I mean, I know that especially when you were writing the blog, or not you, but your team was writing the development blog on a daily basis, that it gave a lot of insight onto exactly what was going on and how to approach games and just sort of your style of approaching games. Do you feel like that's something that's missing from most early access games, or do you feel like that's an element that has hindered or helped you guys?
Yeah, and part of our motivation for doing early access in the first place, before it was actually a thing, was to kind of help just be a resource for game developers to see what it's like. And I guess now one of the lessons we've given people is that game development can take a long time. But yeah, I think a lot of games coming out now, early access is more of a financial concern than intending to be a resource.
Mm-hmm. So would you differentiate open development versus early access?
Yeah, I think it's not really the same thing. And a lot of early access games, it seems like they don't really have any intention to really finish it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, people can accuse us of that with Overgrowth, probably, but we're gonna keep working on it until it's done, which is a difference. We're not gonna just cancel it or consider doing anything like that.
So to all of the iDubbbz that have said, hey, it's going to take another 10 to 15 years, you
Might
say,
as well cancel it, right?
you say it will be done, and there is a firm commitment to that, right?
Yeah, but if it does take 10 to 15 years, it's just gonna be super awesome.
Good. Good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I
It
don't
has to win
understand.
awards.
Yeah, I don't really understand people who, say that we're not going to finish it because we've been working on it for like 6 or 7 years or whatever. It's like, isn't it the exact opposite? Because we've been working on it for 6 or 7 years, isn't it pretty clear that we're just going to keep working on it until it's done? I mean, like, if we were going to give up, we would have given up a long time ago.
Yeah, if we gave up 3 years ago, then this would be like, yeah, they're probably not going to finish that game.
Well, I think that the most dissent I ever see is from the lack of either daily updates on the blog or weekly updates on the YouTube channel. I think those were the places that people felt like they saw the most development, and now they don't see it in their face nearly as much. So that's I think that's the place where most people are getting the idea that you guys aren't working, because that's what I see is like a lot of dissent saying, hey, they're not working because it's been a long time since the last update.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a psychological effect to seeing like more videos, even if the videos show less, right? Like, and I would, I'm gonna make another video hopefully before the end of the month, because people just want to see more videos. Like, I can make 2 videos with 10 art assets each, or I can make 1 video with 20 art assets. But from a psychological perspective, people would much rather see, the 2 videos with 10 assets. So, I mean, it just means more time. I have to spend more time making videos. But yeah, if that's what people like and it makes them feel more comfortable, I'm totally willing to say, hey, yeah, we are making progress. Check this out.
Right.
Yesterday I did a live stream for basically the whole day, just showing the coding that I was doing.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty fun, so I might just try and keep doing that more. And I think that should also help put to rest anyone who thinks I'm not working, because you can watch me working live all day.
Similarly, I've been doing a lot more streams this year, and like at the end of last year too.
I noticed that. I also remember, I mean, you guys sort of have some ties to Unknown Worlds and the Natural Selection 2 development team, and they hired equivalent of Ian, someone who was making a lot of videos already about their game. They hired them to start making sort of official videos for the company, and I feel like maybe as you get close to a release time, that might be an interesting way to keep your time focused on development. And I know that at the beginning you had John and Jeff to do that. So is that a place where you would hire someone again in the future? Not necessarily Ian.
I'll put my PayPal down below.
Maybe. Though I think part of what people might like about the alpha videos is also that it's very direct. It's like, this is what I did this week or this month or whatever.
Yeah, and they like to marvel at your voice.
That's always kind of funny. I think people like Aubrey's voice the best.
Except in receiver.
Yeah, except in receiver. Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. Like, if people like videos, we could just hire a person to do videos. But like the Natural Selection 2 team had like 6 or 8 dudes when they started doing that, and so they had a lot more content to cover. And I don't know. I just kind of like handling that stuff myself. Even though I like making videos isn't the most fun thing ever, it's still kind of an interesting diversion a couple times a month. And it does kind of remind me that, hey, I'm making stuff that people want to see. So should have some cool stuff in this next video, I think.
Cool. Well, it feels like you guys get instant views. Every time you post a video, everyone watches it. Whether it's to watch it to praise it or watch it to complain, I don't know anymore. But
yeah,
we always try and keep them pretty short.
Yeah,
to help
I like
with
the lengths. Yeah.
Yes.
What are you going to say, Aubrey?
I think just the more regular video schedule will put a lot of the complainers to rest. So hopefully we'll see more positive comments on videos as we release more videos.
Yeah, I think so
Makes
too,
sense.
actually. I think so too.
I mean, it's not really, doesn't break my heart to see a few negative comments on the internet, right? Like, it's not like I just found the internet yesterday. But but at the same time, it'd be cool to make people happier.
Well, I think it was a shock for me because it was like 6 years of nothing but glowing comments and things like that, and it just felt like kind of out of the blue it changed to a lot more trolls and a lot more negativity.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
we had
that
our
was
Steam
my
launch,
fault
so
with the Gamergate stuff.
Well, no, but I mean, it was even before that, to be honest.
yeah. I think that there was a bunch of different contributing factors to that, and
I probably helped a little bit,
iDubbbz.
or didn't help. Yeah, because occasionally, people will hear what I say, and it will be like, well, I don't want to work on these details because it is going to be another 15 years guaranteed, And then, people will run with that and they'll be like, well, fuck, you're taking too long, abandoned game, a bunch of other shit. And it's like, it's not necessarily what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the truth is that I think you and what's his name? Nerd Cubed. I think the two of you are kind of responsible for the most pre-order sales from YouTube, because a lot of people reference either your videos or his 1.5 videos. So I think
should be an affiliate program.
Well, I think it's you guys are already getting paid for.
I know. I'm an overgrowth parasite.
So I mean, but I mean, I think that it's been a mutually beneficial.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aspect. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we?
People on the internet are just going to say what they want to say. So at least they're not making comments about the furry stuff all the time now. I mean, for the first few years.
They will now.
Yeah.
That's over. Furry. Oh.
Nice.
Nice. Well done, Aubrey. No, but yeah, it evolves. It's different. People complain about different things all the time. They'll always find something to complain about. That's just the way it is.
Right.
Just keep doing your thing is what I say. And then the game will be released at some point and everyone will be like, well, it's out now. It's a game and it's good or whatever. You know, stuff happens regardless
Right.
of what people say on the internet. Anyway, we should probably move on to the next question.
Keep moving on. Yeah.
Yeah, if you still have time, let me know if you don't have time to keep going. I just want to get at least past all the... past all the old questions, because we haven't gone to the new questions yet, so yeah.
All right.
I think we can make it through that.
Sweet. Okay, so Akazi asks, how do you manage payment between both of you, David and Aubrey? Has there been any time where money wasn't looking good and so had to skip paying yourself?
Originally, we had an agreement where we all have some percentage of profits that's divided up, including all the original guys, like Philip and John and Jeff. So we just, after costs, like when we're paying for offices or new hardware and things, we just split up the rest of it. So yeah, I guess it's pretty simple.
Yeah, okay.
At first, it was like a little bit like difficult for me because like I basically didn't have money to live on, so I kind of borrowed against money that Wolfire had, and then I had to eventually pay it all back. But that's done.
Receiver
So-
also helped a lot,
Receiver
Bye.
helped a lot.
especially because that was just me and Aubrey. So it's only split 2 ways instead of like 5.
So does that still happen? I mean, I guess the old guys, so old, who don't work on the game anymore, they're not still in on this thing, or are they? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, they are actually, but they also do still work. They don't do marketing stuff, but they still like manage a lot of the most unpleasant aspects of running a video game company. So,
So John still gets you coffee, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking. as
that
well.
is actually a true fact. That's
Yeah,
usually
but
boba now, like bubble tea.
Oh, okay. But John is just an awesome person, so I think he would do that whether he
Yeah.
was being paid or not.
John is legit.
John really is.
Truly.
They're all pretty cool.
Yes. All right. So the next question is from Eric E. Lab. Asks, will you be changing anything with the dialogue system into something like cinematic clips, or would you ever consider putting voice actors to give more life into the characters?
We're gonna start with something more like the recent Phoenix Wright games, where it's kind of like a compromise between click-through old school type dialogue and some amount of animation. And we might experiment a bit with more fully animated or voiced things just to see how it would look and how much it would cost. But one nice thing also about the Phoenix Wright style is that modders could pretty easily make their own campaigns at the same level of production value. So just a lot of things to think about right there, but that's what we're starting with.
Makes sense.
So there will be objections.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Take that.
Confirmed.
So I had another question for Ian, which is, what are the coolest parts of mods that you've tried that you think might be good to integrate into the actual game itself?
Definitely the things on the mod. So like the tackle mod that Steel Raven 7 worked on. He was mentioning it in the chat earlier. Ragdolls influencing other ragdolls, basically. I think that's really good. And
Have you seen that mod, David?
I haven't. That sounds
So-
pretty awesome, though.
It's
Yeah.
been around for a while. Basically, if you're running, you can hit a button and it will cause you to ragdoll, and if you hit any other characters, it will cause them to ragdoll. So you can sort of basically tackle people with your own body.
Kind of reminds me of the rabbit kick from Lugaru, actually, because that was kind of like that. Like you could, if you missed someone, you would just, be lying there.
Also increased gore. So there's the blood mod, which right now it doesn't look like all that realistic, considering like you've done so much work on the blood already to make it look as good as it does right now. So like it looks a bit cartoonish with the blood mod, but something more like that so you can add more gore. I mean, it's pretty gory as is, but I don't think you can really go wrong with it.
Have you
Intestines.
ever?
Yeah.
We need intestines. I'll totally model intestines.
It's
Have
fun
you ever
adding
have you ever
random stuff.
Have you ever sliced someone's neck and then like held the person up in the air and then like zoomed in close to them and watched them die? It's like it is brutally
It's extreme.
It is
Yeah.
so extreme, this game already. I mean, aside from like taking limbs off, which we've discussed several times,
Yeah.
I don't actually know. Anything beyond this actually starts making it less realistic and more cartoony, maybe making it
Right.
easier to be.
I was thinking more of like a checkbox, more of like an option, like, oh, you could have no blood, you have blood, and you could have cartoon
Super blood.
Yeah, super blood.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be fun to add kind of modes like that, kind of like the original GoldenEye, where you could unlock
right.
like
Right.
big head mode or paintball mode. Maybe you
Yeah,
could
that'd be
unlock
dope.
like hydraulic powered blood, like in the Hong Kong action movies, where they get chopped
Yes.
and you actually hear the
Yes.
hydraulics.
I'm really excited about that now.
That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. There's quite a few that are in the mod that I definitely feel are really good. Like even as stupid as it is, like there's a feature to zoom in and out, because like right now, like Anton was mentioning, like to bring your camera in, you kind of have to finagle it a little bit. It's not like the scroll wheel brings it in a first person mode or anything, but something along those lines to let you like fully look at your character and all that sort of stuff. It's obviously
So,
not
like-
priority, but
Like a camera distance, basically.
yeah, camera distance. Yeah, I think it was tied to like page up and page down, which was kind of irritating, but something like that I think would be nice.
This is a mod called the mod.
mod.
That's
Yeah.
like a meta mod.
It's been included, I think, in Last's Blood mod has sort of applied all of these mods into a sort of a single user interface. I'll put a link
nice.
in Skype for you if you want.
Cool. I'll have to check it
Yeah.
out. I'm a little bit out of touch with the mods.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff. Steel Raven 7 has made a lot of really good ones as well.
Some of the hotspots I think are useful, like the ragdoll hotspots. There's a launcher hotspot that is useful sometimes. There's the I mean, obviously I think those are hotspots that will probably make it like, or a sort of like a super jump hotspot. There's hotspots that alter your character's settings, so it's like a health hotspot to revive your health, or make yourself stronger if you're fighting an enemy that is tougher than you. If you go to a certain spot in like some campaigns, like it adjusts your stats to make you
That's pretty
tougher
cool.
to fight the
Yeah.
character. Things like
Like
that.
you're finding a suit of armor or something.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
Another one is the animal running. A lot of people want animal running in it. And yeah, that was included in the mod, I believe. At least a while back it was. Any plans for animal running there, David?
Yeah, I just have to figure out the controls. Because I didn't really like the Lugaro control for it, where you're crouch walking and then you turn into animal run. Because
Right.
sometimes you might be crouch walking forwards and you just want to start running forwards. Because like someone spotted you and now you don't want to be stealthy anymore.
Right.
One option would be to make it kind of like Okami. I kind of liked how when you're running around in that one, if you're running for a little while, you go to the next tier of running and then you keep going faster. So it could help kind of detect if you're just running across some boring long distance.
You could use the tap function from receiver to like change into it or something. So you're like, normal run is just holding it down and then like double tap to crouch or something too. It'd be interesting.
It's a good
Do we
point.
have
Yeah, you could just keep
crouch
doing
jump?
it.
Yeah.
like crouch jump bound to anything. Could be like kind of going off the mark, like
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That could work too.
I like
That's
the
definitely
idea
on the
of-
to-do list.
I like the idea of doing it like in receiver where you need to mash W to just like
Oh god.
Yeah. It'd be hard to map that to a controller.
no.
So I
It's
guess
totally fine.
Grand Theft Auto did that
The thumbstick.
in San Andreas.
That'd be
Yeah.
heinous.
Yeah, but you don't bind it to the X or A button. You bind it to the actual W's, like pushing the left stick forward. You need to like do it over and over and over and over again. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I definitely want Animal Run at least for the wolves. I'm not sure
Right.
if all races will have it, but maybe.
Well, you had mentioned in the past that the character models don't seem to fit the Animal Run style as well as the ones from Lugaru did. Is that still a concern?
I'm not sure. I know let's have to test it out, I think, and see how it would look. If it looks really weird. It sounds like people have done that in mods already, so I can see how it looks.
No, it looked pretty weird. So,
Yeah.
and you might have to go back to an old version to make it work. And I know for a while, like, you know, the inverse kinematics weren't working, so it was like floating half a foot off the ground, and it's the Animal Run mod has, I mean, it's been around for like 100 alphas. It's been around for a long time, but it just kind of slowly deteriorated as the game was updated. So I don't think it works right now.
But Animal Running and Tackle are definitely on the must-do list.
Right.
Sweet. All right.
So we're technically through all the old questions. I saw a couple in the chat that maybe are worth asking.
I'm
Where
fine
did
with it
that
as long
go?
as people have time. I don't mind. I have time.
Well, the last one that I saw that sounded interesting. Is there an easy way to reload all entities from the level XML without reloading the entire game or level?
And that was asked by Vraven.
Reload them. I'm not
Yeah.
sure I understand the purpose
I
of
think
that.
that L key resets stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The L key resets the level, but it only resets the parts that are kind of intended to move right now, like characters and items.
Mhm.
So if you have a script moves the objects in the level around, then it won't work for that yet. So I'll have to add
Okay.
some kind of special thing for that.
Right.
Like if
There-
you see the levels, like the characters, kind of fall out of their spawn point, and L just moves them back to their spawn point and fixes their health. But the objects, like environment objects, don't have that. Box and them are the same thing.
Right.
So if you have a mod that has like a door that opens, then L won't reset that. So I'll need
I
to figure
see.
out something for that.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, one of the there is a mod to sort of automate moving objects, and I know sometimes if you stand on an object and say it's rotating along the z-axis, right? It will move, but you'll stay still, and so if it's oddly shaped, you'll actually fall off that object. Yeah, I don't know if that's if there will ever be more support for that kind of modding.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm not sure if the main campaign would have any support for moving objects, just because I don't know if they'll exist in the Overgrowth world. I mean, maybe boats would be moving, like down a river or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't think the world has like elevators, or flying platforms, or things like that. So we could have them on challenge levels, maybe.
Right. Well, I guess a realistic example would be doors that open, trap doors that maybe open underneath you.
That's true.
You know, those types of things.
Yeah, I'll just. It's on the list, but it's probably not near the top right now.
Right. No, I understand. And the other mod that I'm thinking about it that would be useful is like a checkpoint type mod.
Yeah.
But I think we
Oh, for
talked
sure.
about that.
That's really important, especially for parkour type levels.
Yeah, or
But-
for ones with a lot of enemies.
The funny thing is that people who are saying it takes too long are often the same people asking for, like, flowing rivers and bows and all sorts of other stuff like that.
Right.
You have to kind of pick one or the other.
Makes sense.
Takes too long for you to make my perfect game.
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah. All right. Well,
I think this is a good place.
I think this is a good
All right.
place. It's been over an hour now. That's crazy. I didn't think this would happen. So yeah, I'm just gonna say thank you for watching, dear viewer, and thank to you, everyone. You
Yep.
guys. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Great.
And we will be back in 2 more weeks with another episode.
Right.
Sounds good.
Will there be an update before then? Big one? Like a big one with water and bows?
This
Yeah,
was-
Checkpoints.
Sick.
And hydraulic blood.
All right.
Nice.
I was joking about the water and the bows, but the hydraulic blood, like, for sure, right?
All right.
No doubt.
See you guys next time.
Yeah.
Great.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Having me.
See you guys.